Well, hello, dear friends and friend John. How are you?
I'm doing pretty great. There's nowhere else I'd rather be right now than with you, Tamara, so I'm doing pretty great.
Well, I feel exactly the same way. I mean, we've been talking privately on and off for the last couple of years. And every time we have a conversation, I say to myself, my goodness, the world needed to hear that. So I finally decided to say, let's press record and have a conversation to share with all the amazing heart centered leaders that are in our joint networks and go a little deeper on a topic that is very close to both of our hearts, which is purpose. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Wonderful. Now, an observation. I was in Lanai recently for a wellness retreat with some leaders, some outstanding leaders from around the world, and they were all heart centered. And I took a session on purpose, purposehood. Why were you put on this planet other than to make money and solve business problems? And I was perplexed at the amount of people who actually struggled with this conversation. Now, these guys have built massive businesses, solved huge amounts of problems in order to get to that level of success. And I would say they're some of the best problem solvers in the world. So, why are they stuck on this
Yeah.
one thing, which is their purpose?
Yeah, because they're using the wrong tool. As in school, we're taught to use analytical logic to solve problems. And analytical logic is a wonderful tool to solve a math problem, to create a business plan, a budget, build a bridge, all that sort of stuff. You should never hire a professional who lacks these skills. But everything that makes life worth living, Tamara, looks stupid through an analytical lens. Uh, I love being a parent. I have a 16-year-old son. He is the joy of my life. I love changing his diapers. I love comforting him from his tantrums. I tease him all the time that he is the worst investment I will ever make. I've spent thousands of hours just making this child laugh. Like, how much money have I spent on lessons and enrichment and travel and all this sort of stuff? I will never get that time and money back. Why would anyone want to watch a sunset? I can't imagine a less efficient activity. Or if you are going to watch a sunset, why don't you take a recording of it and play it back double time so it's faster? These statements sound ridiculous because they are. It's analytical logic. It's the wrong tool. No one needs help deciding if they should make $1 million or $10 million. Should they get a hug or should they burn their fingers? Like, these types of problems yield easily to analytical logic. But when you ask, what should I devote my life to? What's my purpose? What are my gifts? We need a more subtle, heart-based, soul-based logic to answer those questions.
Well, that's something that you help people with for a living, right? So, where do you start? I mean, it's such a big question. Why am I here? So, you've obviously come up with a system of how you break that down. And I'd love for you to talk me through without giving away too many secrets, but give us the secrets. Come on. Where do we start? And how do we chip away at that? Because I always explain to people who might say they're intimidated by where I am in my career. I say, no, hang on, stop. This is just rings of a tree. And I just keep drawing rings and rings. And I've been doing it for a very long time, hence why I have a nice big tree. But it's all about breaking it down into stages. And I believe that's something that you've spent many years mastering when it comes to purpose.
Yeah, I'm an operator at heart. Everything in life is a process. These things that we call more art than science just means that you're not conscious of what all the steps are in the process. Um, so why do smart, hardworking people not have the lives, not have the businesses that they're working so hard for? Or maybe they do have the businesses, but they don't have the life because they're, like we said, using those analytical tools for things that need something else. There's really 5 reasons. And the first is that they don't know who they are. They're living someone else's idea of what their life should be instead of their own. And Tamara, who you are is a three-legged stool. And the easiest, most accessible leg of that stool is how your life should be lived. Not how I think it should be lived, not how your mom thinks should be lived, but how you think your life should be lived based on your DNA and your experiences and your beliefs. This is something that's unique to you. How your life should be lived are your core values. And when you live your life out of alignment with your core values, even if you're doing something that you love, even if you're doing something that you're great at, it feels like a slog. it's exhausting to work against yourself. And at the end of the day, you feel like you have to relax with a beer or two or three or just flop in front of the TV because it's just so tiring working against yourself. When you live your life in alignment with your core values, even if you have a high degree of intense activity, and you should, it's called a life of full engagement, it feels effortless, it feels meaningful, it feels joyous. The second leg of that stool is purpose. Why should your life be lived? That should again. And there's so many definitions of purpose, but the one that I like best because it's just so useful as a tool to living your life is purpose is the intersection of how you feel compelled to show up and contribute to the world, because that's who you are. You do it at home, and you do it with your friends, and you do it at work. The intersection of how you feel compelled to contribute with the impact that you seek, that just makes everything feel it's the way that it should be. That should again. And when you live your life out of alignment with your purpose, even if you're doing what you're great at, even if you're doing what you love, it just feels empty. And when you're in alignment with your purpose, you're just like, yes, this is what life's supposed to be like. And then your how and your why, they point a finger in the direction of your what. What should you devote your life to?
I love that. And you know what's interesting is after I had my first level of success, I had someone work with me on what my core values were because when I looked back at it was really hard to get to 10 mil. Like, from 1 to 10 seemed hard. The next lot seemed quite easy. But when I looked back and reflected on all the struggles to get to 10, what my epiphany was is after doing the work over here on what my core values were, and then analyzing all the lessons, because they're not mistakes, they're only mistakes if you do them twice and you repeat them. But all the lessons that I'd had, one of my values was out of alignment. And in general, you have about 4 or 5 values, is what I learned. And when I had a look and saw, well, wow, I sold that business to the highest bidder, not the person who would take the most care of that business. And
Mm.
money's not one of my key drivers. I mean, no judgment. If that's one of your values, fine, but it wasn't mine. And community was a big one of mine. And flexibility and freedom is another one. So when they took over the business and then pulled all those things out that fundamentally made it prosper, it's no wonder it failed. So these are navigation tools for us to help us with decision making, which is yes, there's the higher purpose. Why are we here? But it's fundamental to do that work. Would you agree?
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. Like, so people who go to a core values workshop or find your why, and they exit the workshop with something they could put on a post-it note and they put it on their refrigerator or their monitor and then they're done.
Oh,
That's what I
don't get
call
me
the
started on vision boards. I don't believe in them at all.
yeah,
They have to be words and ways of living, not pictures of houses and things that you wanna,
yeah,
create and buy.
absolutely. It's what I call the warm bath of self-discovery. Like we all love the rubber ducky of awareness. That's great. But if that's all you do, it's just self-reflective entertainment. That shouldn't be the end. It's just the end of the beginning. These are tools for living. We feel guilt. We feel doubt when we're out of alignment with our values, or when our values are in conflict with each other. Uh, you could have a core value of professional success. Awesome, fantastic. You might also have another core value of family comes first. What do you do if you have the opportunity to go on a speaking tour for a month or two, and it would be tremendously impactful for your business, but it's in direct conflict with the time that you spend in your family? What's the right way to do that? It's important not just to have your core values and have them written down and have them in guiding principle statements, but have them in order of priorities so that you know when they're in conflict, you know which one to do. If you have them in order of priority, then there's no room for guilt and doubt. You just know that that is the right decision for you.
I love that. And you know what's interesting is that the first exercise me and my business partner did together, and I do it also when we hire a high level exec who's coming on board for Phantom Equity or whatever, is we look at what are the values. And they think it's a really interesting exercise, but it's important you understand the people around you and what drives them and what their values are. They don't necessarily have to be the same as yours, but there needs to be no conflicts as far as the values so that if you're not growing together, you're growing apart. And I have this saying that I use. I'm going to show you something I bought in Dubai recently. Check this out. How cute is this?
Mm, yeah.
So I refer to this often when I mentor founders and CEOs on growth, and I say to them, don't be a lazy genie. That's exactly what you were just saying. Oh, I want to be professionally successful. And I'm like, okay, that could look like a life of hell. I can give you two versions of that. And so let's go into the detail around what that means to you. Define success for you. And let's not be lazy with the details, because otherwise you might not like the outcome, which is basically the theme of Aladdin. So I have this on my desk, and when someone's giving me a vague answer, I'm always like, you're being a lazy genie. Give me
Yeah.
some detail.
Sorry, I want to go back to what you said a minute ago about hiring a key employee and wanting to make sure that your values aren't in conflict. Um, so I helped a married couple recently do their core values, and the one of the spouse, my client, and then I was doing it with his spouse. She was a little worried. She's like, "What if our values aren't the same?" And I said, "There's no way your values are going to be the same. Like that would be a needle in a haystack. That's incredibly rare that two people have exactly the same values. What is essential, whether it's a married couple or it's a business partner or a key employee, is that you can respect and appreciate each other's values. And then how do you bridge that gap when your values are different than mine and everyone else's? Whether it's applied to the challenge of sales or getting along with your partner or anything else, just state your core value, your top core value, and ask, is applied to the challenge of this partnership, is applied to the challenge of sales, is applied to the challenge of whatever the thing that you're dealing with. What is the fullest, most satisfying expression of this value? And then go on to your second top core value. Say the same thing is applied to the challenge of this partnership. What is the fullest, most satisfying expression of this value? And then you could fully be yourself within the context of the relationship. There's no compromise necessary.
Wow, I love that. I'm so going to do that exercise because I'm getting together with all my Gathering of Titans people soon. So on Mosquito, I can't wait. And taking that time away. I love being, I got introduced to a new saying this morning, which was your private root time, which is time by yourself in order to let your roots go deeper. And I said to him, actually, I'm going to call it private cloud time, because I spend lots of time on planes and usually on international flights. Because, as you know, one of my core values is, being in Australia, and all my businesses being in America, and making those two a separation. But that cloud time is so important to journal and work through some of these exercises, because if you can define your purpose, it's a reason to get out of bed when everything around you feels like it's falling apart. I mean, that's true resilience. And everyone is talking about the lack of resilience and the lack of execution inside our businesses. And I'm like, it's not that they're a lazy generation. It's that you need, as a leader, to define what the purpose of the company is, and then help them get out of bed every day for that purpose as it relates to their values. So can you take it, once you've done the work yourself and you figure out, as a heart-centered leader, this is why I was put on the planet. There's a reason I became an entrepreneur, and it wasn't just, to make it rain, right? That dies off very quickly, and it's a very lonely existence. So when we go a step deeper and go, okay, how do we bring this into our businesses? Do the same rules apply, or are you more just working with the leader at the higher level?
So as entrepreneurs, our purpose radiates from us like body heat. And it's likely that in your company purpose is at least related, or at least dovetails with your personal purpose. But our purpose is
Just a
rooted
little.
in our stories. For an established company, let's say that you're coming in as you're hiring a president for one of your companies. The company already exists, and if the purpose has not been well articulated in the past, anyone could do this work and discover the DNA, the purpose of the company. And it's as simple as getting everyone in a room, ideally with the founder, if they're still available, and just starting with the founder, why did you start this thing? There's a million companies that do what you do. Like, why did this one need to exist? What was the origin story? And ask all the people who are part of the company, what first attracted you to this company? Could you tell a story? No generalization, specific moments in time. Ask people in the room the times when we were in this company and it it felt the best. Like, that was a great day. I would have done that for free. Tell those stories, and then you look for the themes. What are the themes? What are the stories that keep repeating? And from those themes, you draw out the purpose statement. As a group, as an entity, what is the contribution that we feel compelled to make? Because that's who we are. And what's the impact that we seek that just makes it all worth it? You said that a lot of us start businesses because we have this idea of building something awesome. We want to make a lot of money and all that sort of stuff. No one in your company is motivated by you selling your company for $100 million. That's not a particularly motivating BHAG. Your BHAG should be rooted in your purpose. What is an impact that we can make an order of magnitude or two more than anything that we've ever done before? And if it's rooted in your purpose, it'll excite the imaginations of your true believers, the people who share the company's values, share the company's purpose, and motivate them to do great things.
And I've always been remote, right? I One of my core values is freedom, and I am curious. I love to travel. So I extend that to everyone in the team. So before COVID happened, everyone was working remote anyway. And there's a lot of discussions now around the fact that working remote isn't productive, it's bad for culture. But I still feel like some of the best relationships I have now in my life were created over Zoom during COVID anyway. It's not in proximity. So I talk about tribe versus territory. I want the right people, the A players, the people who are my tribe, who want to go on this adventure with me, which is called business, because business is just a game, right? So I pick the right people. I don't care where they live. It's more important that their values aligned, that they love the purpose and they're on the bus. And I either freak them in or freak them out. If they're freaked in, let's go on this journey. But I'm certainly not looking at where are they located and how can I control them in a controlled environment inside an office, including everything's gone global, including all our team that are in the Philippines. They're all working remote because you can still lead with heart and have an amazing culture if you get that purpose right. And if you lean in, it's I see you, I hear you, you belong. You could do that on Zoom.
So it's purpose, culture, extremely important. With regard to remote teams, it's also about the intentional time that you spend with people. I heard a study last year that it takes 182 hours to make a new friend. And it was an explanation for why you have so many friends in college, because like, who doesn't have 182 182 hours in college? You're just hanging
We're
out all
really
day,
invested
studying, whatever,
heavily
to make a
there.
new friend. And then typically, for most people, you have fewer friends in your 30s than you do in your 20s, and you have fewer friends in your 50s than, in your 30s, and so on. And most people when they're in their 70s, 80s, 90s, their friends are very slowly attenuating, dying off. And if you think about it, like, as a someone who's in their 50s, like, who has 182 hours these days to just hang out and make a friend? So that's why, we tend to have fewer as we get older. But that's to passively make a friend. 182 hours to be hanging out in the lunchroom together, to be hanging out at the water cooler, to be hanging out, in meetings. Sure, 182 hours sounds about right, or even in your community, in your gardening club or whatever it is. But Tamara, you and I met at a conference, and frankly, we didn't have any time. We barely met. Like, we barely had a chance to talk at that conference. And then, if you remember, when it was over, I sent you an email just saying, I'd like to know you. Like, we didn't have a chance to meet. And we had an hour-long Zoom call, and in that 1 hour, we became friends. And that's all it took. 1 hour of intentional, deep presence, vulnerable sharing, and then, maintain and honor that relationship. No, you could totally do it all over the world. Uh, it's accelerated by culture, it's accelerated by purpose, it's accelerated by having this kind of conversation.
I love that. And I still believe in coming together in circles and forums. I mean, with the way everything's gone with social, I think the pendulum flew the other way a little bit too far. And I love that the work that you do is remote with leaders all around the world, but you also go into forums as well and do the work of forums. And that has been a major part of, I would say, contributor to my journey and adventures and success, if you want to define that as success, is having this group of people that we know each other so well because we go straight to 5%ers and deep connection. There's no judgment based on whose values are misaligned or not. There is no judgment in that room, but just being able to be in person and go deep is really important. So quality, not quantity, is what I'm hearing as far as that 182 hours. It sounds like you figured out how to optimize it a little.
Yeah, 182 hours of just, you know, being side by side with someone, or 1 hour of deep conversation. You mentioned forum. I love forum. I've been in the same EO forum for 26 years. I founded 4 other forums. And whenever I start something new, I'd like to create a forum around it. When my son's 16 now, when he was 3 years old, I started a family forum for just other parents who wanted to parent intentionally. We get together once a month for an hour just to share experience. When I first became a coach, I called all the coaches who I really admired, and I started a coaches forum. I started a spirituality forum. I've been in the same weekly accountability call for 14 years now. Every week we meet for an hour and just say what we said we were going to do last week, what we did do last week, what we're going to do the next week, just navigating life together. These are the people you call at 3 in the morning, ask them to bring a shovel, and they come, no questions asked. It's such a gift.
I don't think at 70 you're going to have any problems with your friend. Not between you and I plan to be there because I'm living to 122. Because I really want leaders to live longer and go from this, surviving to thriving to payback, which is buying all the gifts for yourself and accumulating the things, right? To give back. I mean, if we can have more people in stepping into their purpose and spending 50 years in that space, the world's got to be a better place. So for me, the fact that you help people find their purpose and define that, because a lot of people after they exit their business, I mean, they spend so much time making their business an extension of themselves to the point where they're out of alignment. So there's 5 extensions in your being, right? There's self, which women really suck at putting first. There is family, there's business, but there's 2 others, community and Mother Nature. And in general, I find, especially having exited some businesses, when you exit, it's intense. It's all encompassing, it's time consuming. So that 3rd extension, which is business, really takes over your life. And I find that what should be a once in a lifetime happy event for founders when they get their ideal, extraordinary exit, that they're somewhat lost. Do you think there's a direct correlation between the fact of finding your purpose and living that throughout your journey, and business is just part of the journey as opposed to assigning yourself and your worth to your business?
Yeah, well, so it's a big part of it. There's a few other things too. Part of it is we're all taught this lie that if only this thing happens, I'll be happy. If only I could start a company, I'll be happy. If only I could sell my company, I'll be happy. If only I could get married, I'll be happy. If only I get divorced, I'll be happy. If only I could have children, I'll be happy. If only they get out of the house, yeah, I'll be happy. Um, our lives are happening now. Our life is just an endless series of no, 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 no. And this lie that if only I work hard enough, if only something happens, that I could be happy, it tricks us into accepting things that we hate, just having life and business being a slog, only so that we could get to this level. And almost everybody I know who lives their life that way, and it's most people, they achieve the thing, they enjoy it for 15 minutes, maybe a couple days if they're lucky, and now they're on to the next thing, and they're onto the treadmill again. Tara, if we could get metaphysical for a minute, desire is what makes life worth living. Why would you play a game? Why would you play basketball if you didn't care if the ball went into the net or not? Like, it'd be a pretty dumb game. Like, you should have goals. You should care about those goals. But there's 2 kinds of desire. There's desire that's grasping. I want. I want more money, more power, more respect, more sex, more like whatever it is, right? All these things that people work so hard in life for. The problem with desire that's grasping is it doesn't make us happy. It separates us from the rest of the world. It distorts how we see things. We start to see people as obstacles who are in our way or vehicles to get what we want, or if they can't help us or hurt us, they're irrelevancies that don't matter at all. In contrast, desire that flows from our purpose, it's naturally energizing, it's naturally joyful, it's deeply meaningful, and the joy is in the doing. Now, the secret of a lot of this stuff is if you act from purpose, you tend to accomplish a lot more because it's self-motivating. You have more energy to do these things. Other people are attracted to it. People are turned off by acquisitiveness, by this grasping. People don't want to be a part of it. But everybody respects people who act from purpose. They want to be a part of it. And it just helps us accomplish great things together.
Well, that's an interesting point because I'm a bit of a forum junkie, and going back to the forum, I recently created a longevity forum inside our group, and they're all there trying to figure out how to biohack. And I came across this method called, or model called, the iceberg model.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to do some more research on it, as you know I will. But 10% of our health is what you can see, is what they're talking about. So they break it down into 4 areas in an order of number 1 being the most important down to 4. The first one is meaning, which stems in from this purpose, which leads into number 2, which is motivation. Again, what you're saying there about the purpose drives the desire and the motivation and the energy, because we are all just energy. And I'm still astounded every single day at what the universe delivers me in the way of energy forces of beautiful humans. It's incredible, the sorts of amazing humans that are on the planet. The third one is then lifestyle, obviously. So, and I still feel that the meaning and the motivation drives the lifestyle habits. And then last is the health. So we
Mm,
have all these leaders running around trying to hack themselves through longevity. And yes, we're in a forum to navigate that, because I do believe if we could figure out how to give 22 years to
mm.
every heart-centered leader to be in service, imagine that. What would 1,000 people with 22 extra years look like for the planet and people? It would be a great gift to humanity. But we don't have to biohack our way through to it. Let's start with what they were saying with the iceberg model. Let's find our meaning, and let's use that to motivate us. That creates the lifestyle habits, and then of course there's the health. So I love this model of turning it back around, and this is a concept that came out 30, 40 years ago. So this isn't
Yeah,
new stuff.
yeah. And I love that. And it makes purpose even more important because there's only so much TV you could watch and golf you could play in those extra 22 years. Um, my favorite thing to do with clients is to help them discover what it is that they were born for. And that might change over the course of your life. But the best way that I know to help someone help someone discover what they were born for, and it doesn't matter if they're 22, just getting started, or if they've already sold their business and are thinking, what's next and how can I make the story of my next 10, 20, 22 years a more interesting, more fulfilling, better story than the last 10. It's to get really clear on your purpose, to get really clear on your genius, the things that you just effortlessly do. Like what's your superpower? Superman, he could fly, right? But guys, it's no big deal. I just lift up my hand and I fly. It's easy. Tamara, you have a clear superpower for what you do. Other people think it's amazing, and I'm not saying it's not a lot of work, but it's just what you do. It's your superpower. It's easy, or not easy, but feels relatively effortless. But if you could ask this magic question for smart, hardworking people with abundant resources, which is a lot of the people who follow you, they're great at a lot of things. There might even be a lot of things that they love, and it's super difficult to say, here's a blank piece of paper. Like, design your perfect life. Like, that's really hard. But we're looking at this. What could you devote your life to that leverages your genius in service of your purpose? And it makes it so easy. to brainstorm 2, 3, 5 things, any one of which you would think, "Oh my god, that would be a really awesome way to spend my life." And then there's another process to find which one is, truly the one that you were born for.
Well, I love that, and I call it the seed of potentiality, because people tend to talk about circumstances with me. So as you know, I'm a huge advocate for women, more women in business, for bridging the gap in female entrepreneurship, and also for when you look at the sustainability goals, what underpins a lot of them is actually providing financial independence to women in developing countries. So that's my jam. That's the thing I'm trying to solve. And what I find is when I speak on this, women will come to me and go, "Isn't it disgusting that women only get 2% of capital?" And these are the statistics, and it's all things we can't control. And sometimes they share experiences, bad experiences they've had on the way, in trying to achieve and bridge that gap, because they're obviously very passionate about becoming an entrepreneur. These are things we can't control. But what I say to them is nothing can take away your seed of potentiality. You were born with it. There's a reason you were put on this planet. Those are lessons that needed to be learned, and there's things we can't control. But we can control that. They can never take that away from you. So do that work, figure that out first, and then you'll know what to say no to and hell yes to. And that's how you need to navigate things. And it's interesting how when you speak to them and you lean into their seed of potentiality and you say, "I don't care how ruined you think you are, I still see it in there. It's still in there. What is it?" You can see that just, the shoulders, the body language, they go, "Actually, true. There are things that I'm still passionate about. There are things that I can do in my sleep that I love, that." And then under just going through that small little conversation, even if it's in a conference, like with hundreds of people around, just leaning in and say, "It's still in there." Just so
Yeah.
you know, it's still in there, and you still got time. So what are we doing about that?
It's so easy to get discouraged by just the unfairness of the world and all the obstacles in our path. But there's a beautiful way to live. Choose to believe that life is a curriculum perfectly designed to work out your purpose, and that whatever happens to you, good or bad, fair or not, who is it that you need to be in this moment? What is it that you need to learn from this from this experience? What is the action that you need to take? And that is a shift from victimhood to agency, from being victim to creator. And it's just a better way to live. It's more joyful and it's actually more useful to solving your problems.
I talk about my big mission, which is for business leaders to stand for profit and purpose.
Yeah.
And we're talking about gaps in this conversation, and I feel like you're that beautiful bridge between the two. So thank you for all the work that you do, because to get from one side to the other, we need those bridges and the work needs to be done. And it's all sitting within every person. It's just a process to bring that out. So thank you for mastering that so that we can have more heart-centered leaders in their zone of genius, living out their seed of potentiality and making a positive impact on the world. I appreciate you, and so does everybody else who knows you.
Tamara, it's always so fulfilling talking with you. You're so remarkable, and I'm just grateful for all the good you do in the world. You're a good friend.
Thank you. Well, I love it. So, there's some amazing people, like I said. Let's just shine the light on them. So I appreciate you, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, my dear, for letting this conversation be one on many.